Hello, we are in gate 33 and it is line 4. Gate 33 is the gate of retreat, of privacy, and line 4 is called dignity. This is where revealing begins to take place. This is where remembrance can enter into public discourse easily, because of course this is transpersonal. We're in the upper trigram now. The fourth line is there to externalize two things: its need for privacy and at the same time its need to share its reflections. And that's a balance. At least balance is the goal. So the fourth line here is called dignity. In the lifetime learning, we have a lack of turmoil in retreat. This is the recognition of the value of retreat as the place where reflection and clarity take place. I notice that word clarity. It's something that we use a lot with the solar plexus, reaching a place of clarity. And it's because the abstract process, it goes through the solar plexus, and so it has some similarities to the emotional process. And everything is about timing. So it's a recognition here in gate 33 that when you know that there is another side, as the fourth line does, you know that eventually it will be there for you. And so you can retreat without turmoil. The collective is rooted in sharing. That's its major keynote, really. And when you get to the upper trigram, you get to the transpersonal lines, in which they're very much aware that there is a harmonic gate on the other side of the channel. The harmonic gate to the 33 is the 13, the fellowship of man, the gate of secrets, the listener. There are secrets in the 13 that the 33 can be aware of, and it recognizes that it has to get access to these secrets, which it does through reflection, and it can then reveal them. Yeah. Ra said that the fourth line of the 33 is as close as you get to finding a line that is religious, not spiritual or mystical, religious. The whole of the abstract process is rooted in belief, after all. Think back to gate 56 when we looked at that, and the throat voice there was I believe. So in the exaltation, we have the underlying faith in resurrection that turns retreat into an opportunity for renewal and regeneration. The healthy retreat for regeneration. This is the kind of retreat where people say, I have to go and meditate. I have to go and be silent in order to be empowered. And in that silence or on that retreat, they seek out that power in order for them to feel better about whatever it is that they've gone through as an experience in life. But the terminology itself, when you listen to it, has renewal, regeneration, resurrection. This is very religious language. In the detriment, we have, without the guiding light of resurrection, that word again, the inevitable dissolution that leads to degeneration, forced to retreat and unable to see its regenerative qualities. Fourth line beings are very fixed, and the 33-4 is fixed on being able to see that what they can reflect on can truly be of value. They understand that they have a responsibility, genetically speaking, to be a witness. We know that the first and the fourth lines have a resonance. The 33-1 is called avoidance. So there is an aspect to the 33-4 that needs this deep reflective process in their life. There will be the kind of people here who get involved in all sorts of different levels of meditation. This is the 10-day silent Vipassana retreat, that kind of thing. And remember, another thing about fourth lines is that they get people fatigue. They need to have this time to retreat, to be on their own, to reflect. These people might say things like, I need to get away from everything. I need to go through my process and think things out. I need to make sense out of my life. This is a common attribute for these fourth lines, and through genetic continuity, all fourth lines have these kinds of qualities. If they can't make sense out of their life, out of that process when they're in retreat, unless they can have faith that things are going to work out okay, yeah, they can get very depressed. Unless they have faith, they can feel like the whole thing is just a complete waste of time. These fourth lines, they can be very sad people. The 33-4 really needs some kind of cosmic level of hope, even if it's not true, so that in their time of aloneness, they can find what's of value to them. They will seek out formulas for that. So they might sort of have a habit of sitting in church on a Sunday, or lighting a candle every Friday, or going up the Himalayas any day of the week, every day of the week. All of these rituals are there to help them go through the process of being separate and at the same time to be in stillness, with the hope that this quietness will somehow resolve their issues in life. And yet the fourth line is here to externalize. And so going into retreat can be very uncomfortable. They would really rather be out there sharing what they have to share. So there has to be some awareness around this mechanic, because they can be quite unhealthy if they don't take care. Ra tells us that when throat gates do not operate according to our definition, our type, our authority, then that's going to result in problems in the thyroid system. And the thyroid system, of course, affects our metamorphic process, all of the processes in our body. It's important for each of us to be aware of the activations that we have in the throat, if we have any, and being aware of where our voice is not, because that's as important as what gates and voices we do have. Because every time we use an aspect of our throat that doesn't belong to us, we do damage to our physical throat and to the way in which metamorphosis takes place in us. Let me tell you a little story here. I'm a fourth line, as you know, I'm sure by now. And when Bear and I got married, I decided I was going to do the whole thing, organize the whole thing, even though I was offered help from actually two manifestors asked if they could get involved and start anything off for me. And there were various other, actually three manifestors. God, I forgot about that one. We both have a sister who's a manifestor, and Bear's daughter's a manifestor as well. And there were various generators around, but no, I decided I was going to do it myself, projector. Why not? Undefined throat. It's going to happen, really, isn't it? And I did manifest the whole thing. I created. It was low key. I mean, it wasn't a huge, society wedding in any sense of the word. But it had a lot of different elements to it. It was a lot of fun, and I pulled it all together. And the morning of our wedding, I woke up and I'd lost my voice. I had this very squeaky, like this, like I'd inhaled a whole lungful of laughing gas. Is it hydrogen? Nitrogen that does that, isn't it? Tightens up your vocal cords. So I was talking all day like this, and everyone thought that that was part of my act for the day. That was part of how I was presenting myself. Actually, I had laryngitis, and I spent the whole 2 weeks of the honeymoon in bed, and not in a good way. So, so this is my throat center story. I damaged my throat by operating out of my type. Gate 33, throat gate, it's constantly under pressure to express itself, but to express itself under the right conditions, which goes back to living your design and entering into things properly. I didn't know about human design when we got married, so it would be interesting, wouldn't it, to do it again, and to do it with that awareness of what I am capable of, and what I really shouldn't try to do. Maybe we could have a revisit of that. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? You're all invited. Okay, slight detour there. The essence of understanding the mechanics of human design is to recognize that being awake is a mechanical process. Oh, it's not really that spiritual and woo-woo and mystical. It's mechanical. This is all about mechanics. And it's a mechanical process that goes in a cycle. And it's 7-year cycles, but it's still just a mechanical process within that cycle. And if you're in the mechanic, if you're consciously involved in your experiment in the mechanic, then it takes 7 years for that mechanism to kick in and to start going. The 7-year cycle, I've heard people say, and I've said this before, people think that there's 7 years and that's it. And that's not the case. It's a cycle. Things drop away after 7 years and through the 7-year process as well. If you do commit to this experiment, you will notice at the end of the first 7 years, you are not the same person you were at the beginning. You will not be the same person at the end of your second 7-year cycle as you were in your first year cycle. All the time, these things change, and we're never in the same place as we were the first time. Cycles. The grounding is in gate 19 in the line 4, which is called the team player. This is a great name for a 4th line, isn't it, really? But how does it ground the 33-4? I guess even though the 33-4 is about privacy and retreat, and 4th line by its nature needs a network, and it has to share its remembrances with someone after all. So even through the process of privacy and retreat, that 33-4 needs to share when it comes out into the world again, when it emerges from its privacy, has to find somebody to share with. So maybe this is where the team player can come in. It can help the 33-4 reintroduce itself to its network. What do you think? Does that resonate with you? Do you have these gates? I would, as always, be so interested to know what your experience of these activations is. Whether you actually have them yourself consistently, or you're feeling them through the transit, or you've witnessed them in other people that you know. The moon. The moon is focusing us on beginnings still. It's hanging out in the root gate 53 for a little while longer yet, most of today, actually. Then it moves into gate 62 at 1842. This is the logical throat gate called preponderance of the small. This is the gate of details, of naming things, and it brings an ability to easily grasp patterns, and it has a gift to patiently assemble, organize, and express the details of any situation or structure. It brings it in the form of a logical awareness and a theory. And some awareness can be necessary here, to avoid overwhelming others with endless amounts of data and inessential details, especially if there's no gate 17 present. However, we currently do have gate 17. We have the channel because the North Node is in gate 17. So we have the channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being. This is bringing us a need to have all the facts at our fingertips before speaking. We know that our opinions must be backed up by detail in order for our verbal expression to have a power, an authority, so that the collective can recognize the value of our opinions. Now, this is only an 11-hour activation or thereabouts, because the moon moves fairly quickly. But if you're sensitive to the transits, you may become aware of something sparking off in these themes. Tomorrow morning at 5:17, the moon transits into gate 56. This is the gate of stimulation, the storyteller, the wanderer. This is an abstract throat gate that is constantly on the lookout for stimulation, for new ideas that it can weave into stories, engaging stories, stimulating stories. This is not about processing and presenting facts and proof, but it's about expressing perceptions and feelings. This is about inspiring others and teaching others, and it's a projector gate, so it's about waiting for an invitation to inspire and teach. Okay, that's us for today. That is the 33 line 4. Tomorrow, 5th line day. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for joining me, and take care and enjoy your day. Go gently.